All right, let's jump ahead to the first semifinal matchup that is set in stone, which will be the defending champion Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics. Both teams had little trouble sweeping their first-round opponents, but I doubt anyone has a sweep in this matchup. The Celtics won 3 of 4 in the regular season, although they will be without the services of Gordon Hayward. Toronto's Kyle Lowry is day-to-day with an ankle sprain, but he's expected to be ready for Game 1 on Thursday. All right, Cody, who wins this series and why?
Yeah, me and my sweet predictions. I think I'll keep the brooms in the closet for this one because this series is a close matchup. I mean, you look at the odds makers; it is split down the middle. Everything's screaming 7-game series. And when you look at these two teams, obviously they got their sleeps in the first round. They're going to have an equal amount of rest. And going down the list, I mean, these teams are equal in terms of coaching. They have similar philosophies where their team building, they're not set around it's not a superstar and friends. You're talking about well-developed teams with the talent that is deep, and it's not just a one-man show. You got Tatum, Brown, Lowry, Siakam. They have hefty third, fourth, fifth options down the line. I mean, they're efficient. I mean, they're almost it feels like a mirror match in a lot of ways. Like, it's hard to put them up and go, oh, well, this team clearly does this better, but the other one does clearly this better. The first thing I look at when I'm comparing them is the depth. And I think that without Gordon Hayward, Boston is forced back pretty heavily into their 5-man rotation. You have guys like Cannon and Williams filling in here and there, obviously, but they're not going to be able to give those guys too many minutes. Guys like Canner can be really useful in some matchups. He can also be an absolute, barnacle in other matchups. So you got to be careful. But Toronto, much more comfortable. They can go into Powell, Ibaka. You also have guys like Hollis Jefferson, Boucher, or even Davis that are going to get substantial minutes if the situation calls for it. And I think it's going to give the Raptors a slight advantage, especially in a long series where, again, matchups are key and individual, moving guys in and out is key. I think Toronto just has more to work with in the series overall. And again, it's not going to be about stopping a single guy. You don't have this, well, if we just stop Giannis, we'll be able to do, Boston's got enough firepower with Walker, Brown, Tatum, you name it. I mean, you're not just stopping one dude. So I think with that being in mind, I think Toronto being a little bit better defensive team, they're going to have a little more in their toolkit to get some more stops. And then when you think about a team that has more of a strength to lean on, the Celtics do everything remarkably well, but they're not really elite at anything, in particular. They got this kind of jack of all trades feel to them where, they excel in certain things. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's not like this team is, they're the 3-point shooting team or they're the defense team or their strength is just, they have no weakness, across the board. And I think they're at their best in their half court sets where their offensively gifted trio they can win those one-on-one battles. They can work the pick and roll. Toronto, I think, is more of an elite defensive team, and they can struggle a little bit on offense at times without fast break opportunities and turnovers and things like that. So if I was looking for an issue, that might be it with Toronto. So Boston doesn't really have that penchant to turn the ball over or, slow to get back on defense. They're pretty well coached and they definitely have the effort and whatnot. So I think Toronto is going to have to be aggressive in creating those fast break opportunities and second chance boards and things of that nature to do that. Because I think if the pace is slow, this is going to favor Boston. And we look at individual matchups, it feels like a push with the starters. I think that Siakam probably is going to have the biggest single advantage in the series because he's likely going to be guarding Tice or Smart on defense now that Smart's got to play a lot more minutes with the Gordon Hayward absence, which that's going to leave Siakam a little bit more free on offense to kind of do what he wants to do. So I think also, obviously, if Lowry isn't able to go or he's significantly hampered, that kind of hurts things. But overall, I think I would have to call this as Raptors the 7. I think that what you'll see come down is 2 equal teams. And if I've got to pick a winner, if most things are considered equal, I think Toronto has just been through this ringer already. They were through it last year. This whole team went to the finals, and Kawhi or not, they seem like a pretty good team still. And is this Boston team ready to make that next step, get over the hump? I mean, Philly wasn't the test that we would think they might be. So if Tatum and Brown are world beaters, though, I mean, it could just as easily be Boston in 7. So I think Boston goes as far as their wings take them, and we will see who gets it pulled out.
Yeah, well, I disagree. I disagree with your conclusion, but that's okay. Because I think what you're missing is this. And I've said this before. My problem in this series with Toronto is, yes, I understand. They're the defending champions. A lot of respect for them. And they've done a remarkable job this season. I mean, Nick Nurse, coach of the year for a reason. Pascal Siakam, he has taken another step towards superstardom. I mean, this is a guy that most improved player last year. He had an argument for most improved this year with the improvements that he's made. And he was an all-star starter for the Eastern Conference. I mean, that happened. Kyle Lowry, we know what he's going to do. He's going to go out there, make some threes, fall down from time to time, and draw some fouls. Fred VanVleet's been very good for them. He's been outstanding. It seems like almost since the light switch turned off in the Milwaukee series, he's been outstanding since then. And OG Anunoby, I brought him up. He was injured last year. You lose Kawhi, you get Anunoby back. He's no Kawhi, but he's another guy. He fits into that style. He can play really good defense for you. And we know Gasol is going to come out there and just take up space mostly. He's not going to do much offensively. But, yeah, and Ibaka and Powell, that's about where I think depth for me really isn't a big concern for either team. I think this is one of those series where, for the most part, you're going to see these teams shorten their rotations. I think the Raptors go 7 deep in this series for the most part, unless they, there's some really serious foul trouble that goes on. And I think Boston really, they're gonna play a bit more players because they don't have any Gordon Hayward. So Marcus Smart is going to get a lot more minutes. You're going to get Cantor out there. Wanamaker's going to get minutes. I think Toronto's their 6 and 7 are better than Boston's 6 and 7 right now with Ibaka and Powell. But what it comes down for me in this series is Toronto is an elite defensive team. But these are going to be close games. I don't really see, and I could be wrong, but I don't think we get blowout games. I think they're going to be close because that's just how Toronto is going to have the game going because it's going to be tough to score. But they're not running away from people. I don't see that happening. And I do think late in games, they will struggle to score. Listen, last year, Kawhi Leonard is the guy in a late game situation. Here's the ball. Take us there. And he did. They don't have that guy. I don't see it. I don't think it's Siakam at this point, although he's had an exceptional year. I just told you about it. You're not getting me to believe in Kyle Lowry to that degree. I'm sorry. I've seen it too many times, and we cannot forget the days when they were perennial no-shows when it was time with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. And VanVleet, I just don't see it. I don't see it. And it comes down to, I do see it, though, in Jason Tatum. I do see it in Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker. He's good for a little something late in games. I think Kemba Walker's got that clutch gene as well. And not to say Lowry and VanVleet, they can hit big shots. But I think in this series, it's about Tatum and Siakam. Those are your best players. Which stars will shine brightest? And Jason Tatum has me believing in him. I also got belief in Jaylen Brown. I got belief in Kemba Walker. And I think late in games, Boston will be able to execute, and I don't think Toronto will be able to execute. I really think the difference is ultimately, can Toronto make enough threes from specifically Lowry and VanVleet? And I think Boston would they need to be very careful with how they collapse in this series, because one thing about Toronto, they can get scorching hot from three. Lowry and VanVleet in particular. I would caution Boston in how they collapse off penetration, because you don't want to let those guys all of a sudden get hot, because then you can be in for a long day. But I think I like Boston in this series. It's going to be a great matchup, great coaching, great young talent across the board, except Lowry and Gasol. They're kind of old. Ibaka's getting up there too as well. But I got Boston in 6.